I wanted to read a couple thoughts, and we'll get to what I was going to get to because we were talking about the Seahawks in the last segment. And Schneider saying one of their biggest offseason goals is to reestablish home field advantage. And you guys have been up to Seahawks games recently, and you've seen not quite the case. Now, it is for some games, not all games, but one of our listeners pointing out when the Steelers came to town, it was just all Steeler towels and yellow towels.
Our old boss
a lot of those.
She's in California now, but when she was here, she'd go up to Seattle quite often. She was a Seahawks fan because she worked in Seattle a long time. And she would go to these Seahawks games. I would say she went to like maybe 2 a year. And she would text me because we'd jokingly trash talk Niner Seahawks stuff. And the amount of times she would tell me, like, it's crazy how many of this fan base is here
today. Showing up today.
Like, audibly, you could hear them be present at that game. And that used to be a stadium that I remember even the NFC title game that Sherman tipped the ball. You'd see red. You didn't hear
No, it was
one
of the
85 to 90%.
Yes.
Seahawk faithful. 12s.
One of the reasons I grew to hate the Seahawks as much as I do was, one, I grew up a Niner fan, and so that turned into a rivalry, and they beat the Niners in an NFC championship game. It's a heartbreaking loss. The other one is I have a lot of family that lives up in that area, and I, for my entire life, never heard a peep. Never a text, never a call, never any sort of comment about Seattle Seahawks football until, give or take 2011, 2012, 2013. All of a sudden, I started to get flooded with calls and texts from Seahawks fans. You know who I haven't heard from in about 6 years? All that family that was a diehard Seahawks fan. I think that's part of the problem. One of our listeners said, I've had season tickets for the Seahawks for 20 years. Not the same crowd. Used to be blue-collarish. Now it's more corporate. Ticket prices have gotten so high that the diehard, quote-unquote, loud type of fans can't afford to go to games much, if at all.
Or if they have, season. If you are scraping together to get season tickets.
How much money can you make selling it for one of your big games?
Especially if it's a primetime game, a Monday night game, Sunday night game, Thursday night game, whatever the case may be.
Because you guys went up for that Thursday night game, right? It was Niners Seahawks was a Thursday night game.
So you sell one or two of those, and then that subsidizes basically the rest of your...
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I think that's the story of a lot of teams in pro sports.
You're just pricing out the people who used to make you have a great home field advantage. The Niners don't have a great home field advantage at all. They built their stadium in Santa Clara, which was one of the dumbest things a team's ever done.
Yeah.
And it's a cheese and wine crowd, and it's a horrible home field advantage.
I would argue the Patriots had this a little bit.
Patriots did this as well.
Foxborough was a dump, but man, it just felt like it was a passionate, mob, and now it's corporatized New England, Boston. Do you have any cheese?
Yeah.
And I think you see this with the Warriors. Having watched a lot of these Warrior games in San Francisco, that's
not the same.
It's not remotely the same. The Oracle crowd
what they're charging in there at the Chase Center is
insane. That old arena was one of the better home field, even before home court.
Yeah.
Even before the Steph Clay stuff. I mean, that was a passionate fan base.
The We Believe Warriors.
The We Believe Warriors and upsets in the playoffs. That was a loud arena whenever you would go down there. And
I remember Donald Foyle being a Warrior, and I'm like, they're terrible, but they were still like a rowdy bunch.
Yes, Jason Richardson, man.
The Yankees did this.
Yankees did this too.
The unfortunate part of
the Seahawks didn't build. They had a good atmosphere at this stadium. Their problem was similar though to the other ones. It's the pricing. It's the good. Hey, we can charge X so much more, and now you get the crowd who doesn't really care. It's more of a business write-off. It's a social thing to do. It's cool to be at Seahawks games, and you're not getting the diehard fans that you used to get.
Now, to be fair, too, on this, you start winning the division and being a legit contender again, I think this changes back a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
Because
I think the hard part is the prices, though.
Winning will get people to go, oh, that ticket's $250. We're third in the NFC. Nah, I'm good. Tickets $260. We're clinching the division today and maybe the 2 seed in the NFC. Yeah. Like a lot of people don't have money. Obviously, we all know this. People will spend the money they do have if they feel the value is worth it. And I would say the Seahawks have been a fine team. They've not been a disaster.
No.
But the prices for NFL tickets are outrageous, and I don't think that's worth the everyman per se saying I'm going to spend that amount of money on a game.
Half of a mortgage on a Sunday afternoon entertainment.
Yeah, for a good seat.
For a
good seat in
For a
that
good seat.
stadium, yeah.
A couple of Seahawks fans chimed in too. 3.33339. That was from CP out of 10. That's his confidence level in John Schneider.
That's a good number. I like
Just-
there's some percentages in there.
Just under a 3.4. Another one said I'll give him a 5. He landed some good defensive players, but the offensive side has been bad outside of wide receiver. Sorry, and running back. I'll give him credit, but some of those guys can't stay healthy.
Walker can't stay healthy. He can't stay on the field.
They can't stay healthy. And
Charbonnet has a little bit of the same thing.
Yeah, one of our Seahawks fans said regarding John Schneider, who else is out there? As the question, Niners haven't won a Super Bowl. Is it time to get rid of John Lynch? I mean, I'm always questioning.
I don't think come on.
No, I'm always okay questioning people. Like, I have no problem questioning the people in charge of the organizations. John Lynch was hired as the GM of the 49ers in 2017. Since 2017, when you compare him to John Schneider, now Schneider's got the ring and Lynch doesn't have one as a GM.
Sure.
They've won 8 playoff games. Seattle has won 1 since 2017. They've been to 4 NFC championship games. Seattle has been to 0.
Yeah.
They've been to 2 Super Bowls. Seattle has obviously been to 0. So that's not a like, hey, it's been a 2-year sample size. That's nearly a decade of a sample size that you're going off of, in which every number trumps what San Francisco's done than Seattle's done.
I just,
they just can't. I mean, the quarterback thing's their biggest question this offseason, and maybe it screws them long term.
I kind of hate that, though. That goes to what we talked about either earlier this week or last week, like the ring culture thing of like, if you don't win a championship, it means it just doesn't matter. And like, you get this from loud Cowboy fan that somehow still exists. It's like, well, the last team to win the Super Bowl, Niners are Cowboys. It's like, okay, all right. You like losing in the wild card at home by 20 to a Jordan Love Packer team seemingly every year? Because that's basically been your existence if you even make the playoffs. Okay, yeah.
There's a statute of limitations on that argument.
Because getting to a Super Bowl, even though you don't win,
Doesn't matter.
It's terrible. It's not any better than
I'd rather win 1 playoff game over 8 years than 8 because I won a Super Bowl 12 years, 13. When was that Super Bowl? 2012? Was that the Seahawks Super Bowl?
2013.
2013. So over a decade ago. Hey, Super Bowls are great, man. They're awesome to win, but
also hard to win.
Also incredibly hard to win. And yeah, there's a bit of consistency in terms of playoff success. The Niners have had their ups and downs in those years, no doubt about it.
They were last in the division this year.
This past year they were 6-11, but there's a built-in belief, I think, because of what they've done over that stretch of time, that if they have 3 more years like they just had, he unquestionably should be
absolutely
then there's right in the same conversation.
If they pay Purdy and it doesn't change for them record-wise,
right? You're 6-11 next year, and then you're 7-10 the next year.
Jed York will eventually 3 years from now go, guys, I think it was a great run. Thank you for everything. We're moving.
The Seattle one is interesting to me in terms of GM and coach because they made a very similar decision in terms of the Vulcans with the Blazers. Schneider has a ring. O'Shea did not have a ring, so I'm not comparing the two. But they made the decision last year to say, Pete Carroll, we are moving on from you, and it's not a cleaning of the house. We're keeping our general manager, similar when the Blazers lost to Denver in the playoffs. They said it's not a roster problem, it's a coaching problem. We're going to fire Terry Stotts. We're going to keep the general manager. We're going to let him continue to call the shots. Didn't work out for the Blazers. We'll see how it works out for Seattle.